Farm Week is a production of the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Today on Farm Week, the U.S. Senate and House Ag Committees passed their respective versions of the next Farm Bill.
Planting continues to run far behind schedule for Mississippi farmers.
In Southern gardening, container gardens look great and they provide a great color accent. But how do you get started? Gary Bachman will tell you how.
In the markets, the potential for reduced plantings is likely helping support cotton, as the trade expects the new cattle on feed report to show some bigger numbers than last month.
In the feature segment, it's a familiar symbol of Mississippi State University, a ball of Edam cheese. Mississippi State University is celebrating the 75th anniversary of Edam cheese production on campus. It's as much a part of the university as Bully.
The profit from the university.
I don't think Prof. Herzer had any idea that this was going to be as big as what we have today. He wanted to produce a unique product that was not produced anywhere in the United States, and he was able to do that.
Good day, everyone. I'm Leighton Spann.
And I'm Artist Ford. Welcome to Farm Week. Well, after all the inability to pass a farm bill last year, it would seem what happened this week occurred at the speed of light.
Artists, both the Ag Committees of the U.S. Senate and the U.S. House of Representatives passed their respective versions of the next farm bill. The Senate Ag Committee passed its bill on Tuesday, the House on Wednesday. The Senate Ag Committee voted 15-5 under the leadership of Chairman Debbie Stabenow of Michigan and the ranking Republican member Thad Cochran of Mississippi, who declared it a victory for the state. 4 Republican senators voted no: McConnell of Kentucky, Roberts of Kansas, Thune of South Dakota, and Johans of Nebraska. 1 Democrat voted no: Gillibrand of New York. The Republicans were upset, saying the target prices were too high for rice and peanut producers. The Senate bill shifts farm subsidies away from direct payments and towards crop insurance. It did not, however, do away totally with target prices. The Senate bill would save $23 billion over 10 years, $4 billion of that coming from SNAP, the food stamp program. The House Ag Committee passed its farm bill proposal 36-10. Their legislation would cut ag spending by almost $40 billion over 10 years. Half of that coming from the food stamp program. The House eliminates direct payments to growers and consolidates 23 conservation programs into 13. The bill now goes before the entire House of Representatives, where it may be passed in June. If the entire Senate approves its version in a timely fashion, the two would hopefully work out their differences and get the bill totally passed before the August recess.
Well, as we pass mid-May, let's check on the Mississippi Weekly Crop Report from the Mississippi Ag Statistics Service in Jackson. This report reflects conditions as of last Sunday, May 12th. As we look at topsoil moisture in the state, 62% surplus as of last Sunday, so just a lot of people still not being able to plant. Getting rain in the state on Thursday as well. Not all over, but some areas will still be delayed in planting. Adequate in only 38% of the state. If you look at Mississippi corn, planting is sort of getting completed there, but some people have just abandoned planting some of their acreage and are thinking about soybeans. If we look at Mississippi soybeans, only 17% of the crop planted there. The average for this date is 71%, and obviously a lot of less of it has emerged. As we look at Mississippi cotton, only 7% of the crop planted as of Sunday, and the average for this date is 52%. Mississippi rice running far behind, 22% of the crop planted. 86% is the average for this date, and Leighton Spann will be commenting on that later in the markets. If we look at Mississippi peanuts, once again, 1% of the crop planted as of Sunday, normally 40% at that date. Mississippi watermelons, 32% of the crop planted as of Sunday, should have been almost complete as of this date. As we look at Mississippi wheat, practically all the crop is heading, and that's about on the 5-year average. Mississippi hay harvest running behind, obviously. 17% of cool season hay harvested. Normally it should be 56% at this date. Combination containers and baskets can be stunning to see, but a bit daunting to attempt. In this week's Southern Gardening segment, Extension horticulturist Dr. Gary Bachman shows us a simple formula anyone can follow to make their own beautiful arrangements.
Colorful combination containers are an easy way to add summer color to your landscape. Once you know the basics, it's easy to combine plants into works of art. Making beautiful combination containers may seem to be intimidating, but it's really easy if you remember the spiller, filler, and thriller recipe. The spiller plants are just as the name sounds, plants that spill out over the edge of the container. Superbells make a great choice with outstanding colors such as bicolor varieties like lemon slice, saffron with its golden yellow with reddish center highlights, or cherry star, featuring bright magenta petals with yellow starburst. Spillers don't have to display flowers, as variegated vinca vine can attest. These soft green leaves have creamy edging. The filler plants add body to the combination and can be equally effective with or without flowers. The broad leaves of these begonia make a good filler that adds coarse texture to this combination. Gerber daisies have coarse dark green leaves that provide background for other plants, but the large colorful flowers add another dimension to the container. Thrillers need to add height and excitement to the container. Many times grass-like plants, like this deep dark red star cordyline, work well as thriller plants. Consider the use of this pink mandevilla as a thriller. Placing the small trellis in the center of the combination adds unusual interest. Don't forget to finish your combination with the right container. Choices include terracotta, old metal wash tubs, and even pretty hanging baskets. I'm horticulturist Gary Bachman for Southern Gardening.
Leighton Gary says you can put together an attractive combination container. Once again, just look for the plants that fit the characteristics: the spiller, the filler, and the thriller. In the feature segment today, Mississippi State University celebrates 75 years of Edam cheese making. Learn some of the history behind one of the iconic symbols of MSU. And we have one of them right here.
The genuine cannonball.
The genuine cannonball, as a lot of people call it. And we'll have us on in our feature segment this week and next week. So we'll have that in just a little bit. But looking at the markets, it's been a week since the May supply-demand report, and you say analysts are still debating what they should make of it.
They are, artists, particularly when it comes to cotton, and we'll start today with some of OA Cleveland's thoughts about it. Meanwhile, those same reports were definitely pegged as bearish as far as soybeans. Rice plantings in Mississippi could be the smallest in 36 years, while cattle placements in the U.S. may be up sharply. Ag economist OA Cleveland says to expect a continuation of the nervousness and volatility that's been seen in the cotton market since last month. He told agfacts.com this market appears very much locked within its 82 to 84 cent support at the low end and 88 to 89 cent level on the top end. Meanwhile, Doan's commentary says other key factors at play in cotton right now are the Chinese pushing their old product onto their domestic market out of a massive stockpile, as well as the USDA's forecast of a huge increase in inventory for 2013-14. Commodities in general this week have been under pressure as the U.S. dollar index continues to rally as of our production time. Now for soybeans, the May 10th supply-demand reports added to that pressure as those new numbers were seen by a majority of analysts as bearish for the new crop. Trader Virgil Robinson says producers need to recognize that both U.S. and world soybean supplies are getting larger now, at least on paper.
The theme here is, in a year's time, we swing from unusually tight stocks of soybeans in the U.S. to what is projected to be more comfortable supplies. That was, I think, accentuated by the fact that global supplies are forecast to increase significantly season over season. So please understand and acknowledge that as you think about your new crop, should you have little or nothing priced.
The government is confirming that the 2013-2014 U.S. rice crop is going to be a small one. Now, in Mississippi, as well as many other states, that is expected to be the case. Louisiana and Texas are said to be the only exceptions. USDA analysts are concluding that the year-to-year decline is largely due to more favorable expected returns for some alternative crops, especially winter wheat and corn in the Delta. Mississippi's projected 120,000 acres of rice will be almost 8% below a year ago and the smallest plantings in 36 years. Arkansas, meanwhile, is projected to have the smallest rice crop there in some 24 years. Separating the states of Arkansas and Mississippi is a big river, one by the same name as the Magnolia State, and our trivia quiz this week deals with this important transportation link for agriculture. And here is the quiz question. What is the deepest point on the Mississippi River? Is the answer A, St. Louis, or B, Memphis, C, Vicksburg, or D, New Orleans? You'll find out the right choice before our new feature story.
We're going to pause for a short break on Farm Week. Coming up, we'll look at the calendar and the second part of the markets. Leighton Spann reports that the cattle on feed report shows bigger numbers, but that was expected. In the feature segment today, it may not be well known outside of Mississippi, but it's a calling card that will get you in the door in most places in this area. Mississippi State University's Edam cheese is celebrating 75 years of production in Starkville.
Committed? I better be. When there's a real struggle or when I have thoughts of cutting the line, it's the commitment that makes me stand fast. I hang in because I never want to have to say, that was the one that got away. So yes, I am committed to my marriage until death do us part. Commit to your marriage.
Before we get back to the markets, let's look at the Farm Week calendar. A tree identification workshop will be held Wednesday, May 29th. The location is the Combah County office of the Mississippi State University Extension Service in Clarksdale. You'll learn the various ways to identify trees, even if you can only find the leaves. Part of this workshop will take place outdoors. Please dress in clothes appropriate for field work, including boots and insect repellent. The hours are 8:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Registration is $20, and you need to pre-register by Wednesday, May 22nd. The annual Vegetable Field Day at the Beaumont unit of the Mississippi Agriculture and Forestry Experiment Station takes place Thursday, June 13th. Located Highway 15 north of Beaumont, Mississippi. Registration starts at 8. There's no registration fee, and pre-registration is not required. Go to our Farm Week website at farmweek.msucares.com for information on these and other events. Now check out this week's Farm Week Snapshot.
On Friday afternoon, May 17th, the government released its monthly cattle on feed report. Livestock analysts had some definite expectations about what that report might show as far as the beef sector. I asked Extension Ag economist Dr. Brian Williams some questions about his pre-report thoughts at midday on Thursday. Brian, what are we expecting the new on-feed report to show as far as placements and marketings?
Well, right now the expectations are for the placements to be about 12% higher than they were a year ago. A lot of that comes back to extremely low placements that we saw in April a year ago. In terms of marketing, we're expected to be about 3% higher than last year, and total cattle on feed we're expected to be about 4% lower than last year.
And again, 1 year ago, that was about a 10-year low as far as kind of hitting the very bottom here. All right, as far as total number of cattle on feed, the nation's herd right now, where are we, would you say, in terms of history?
Well, we're seeing a little bit of a downward trend, but not an all-time low. If the expectations are correct, we're expecting about 10.7 million cattle to be found to be on feed for the month. And the last time that it was this low was in 2010, when it was about 10.5 million.
Okay, now you know, as we talk about the importance of feed, you know, factoring in the livestock and especially, of course, beef. The term stabilizing is used as far as corn prices in particular. What impact are we likely to see here as we continue along here, and if indeed they are stabilizing or going lower?
Well, we're seeing a lot of positive news for our feedlots right now. Corn has been coming down since about March, mid-March or so. We've seen the corn prices come down, and that's really going to help the feedlots on their bottom line. And old crop right now is trading for about $6.50. The way it's looking right now, when we get into the new crop, it's going to be even lower than that.
And again, right now we do seem to have a disconnect. Retail beef prices very high, but towards the farm gate, it's not that way in the futures market.
Yeah, there is kind of a distance between the actual retail prices, and I think a lot of that's demand driven. We're starting to see the weather warm up across the country. We're starting to see consumers firing up the grill a little bit more, and so we're seeing the demand come along pretty well compared to the last month or so.
Some analysts are describing the hog market these days as a hard one to call. The last couple of weeks or so, animal weights in the hog sector have set records in the U.S. compared to a year ago, and the government's official Hogs and Pigs report back in March showed the number of animals up 1.5%. Analyst Naomi Bloom says this market is likely to have a sideways trade for at least the immediate future.
So we have more animals, higher weights, obviously more production, and the exports haven't been as strong as they've been in weeks and years past. So there's potentially more supply on the market, and definitely demand coming because of the grilling season, in theory, coming, and hopefully we'll see it continue, but sideways for now.
Before our feature story, let's look at the trivia answer for this week. The correct choice is D. The deepest section is in New Orleans near Algiers Point. It's about 200 feet deep.
In our feature segment today, we honor a product that is closely identified with Mississippi State University. It's a ball of Edam cheese made by the Mississippi Agriculture and Forestry Experiment Station at MSU. This year, MSU is celebrating 75 years of Edam cheese production. There was a time when the demand far outstripped supply, and that still happens around Christmas when it's a prized gift. This week and next week, we'll air a two-part video on the 75th anniversary made by Brian Utley of the Office of Agricultural Communications here at MSU. We'll tell you how you can get your Edam cheese after the story.
In 1938, Professor Herzer had gone to a national dairy conference, and he approached his former teacher and he asked him, says, "What can I do to bring honor to Mississippi State?" And his professor told him, "Make the best Edam cheese possible." So Professor Herzer contacted the Vodster brothers in East Holland. He had heard that they had Edam moles, so he ordered 10 moles from them.
I don't think Prof. Herzer had any idea that this was going to be as big as what we have today. He wanted to produce a unique product that was not produced anywhere in the United States, and he was able to do that.
If you look at their careers, the two that had the most impact on it would be Ed Custer and Joe Cardwell. As I said, Prof. Herzer started it, but didn't develop it. Custer was the business person. He was the plant manager type, the business production supervisor, that type quality control supervisor. Whereas Joe Cardwell, Dr. Cardwell, was a cheese person. That was his specialty. He taught the making of the cheese, how it was made, following the correct procedures, seeing that it was done correctly. Mule Folsom was the one that was making the cheese, but those two were the ones that were directing it. He and Cardwell knew what was going on.
Whenever I introduce myself to somebody, I always tell them my name is Henry Fulgham, better known as Mule. And the reason I got into the cheese making is because of Tom Owsley. He taught me into coming out here and then taught me how to make the cheese. And did it the rest of my life, you might say.
He was the head cheesemaker. I guess Mule he was in charge of it he was the cheesemaker in '63, and he was a cheesemaker in '86 when I left the first time. He knew what to do at the end of an hour. If the acidity wasn't where it was supposed to be, he knew what to do to get it there. You didn't go into the next step. Anybody can make cheese, but a cheesemaker knows what to do at each one of these steps so that 6 months from now or 9 months from now, you're going to have the product you want. At the time, they were making 2 bats a day, probably about 40 to 50 edams at a time. So we had a very limited production, and it was during those times, it was very, very status quo to get on the list to be able to buy your cheese. Not everybody could get it. A lot of people didn't stand a chance of getting it.
People would come in just begging and carrying on for the cheese, you know. And we'd have to hold it on order. The ones that had orders would hold it till the 15th of December. And if anybody hadn't come by to pick it up by that time, we'd let it first come, first serve. And the 15th that morning, there'd be people standing in line at the door.
This is a story that goes back when they only had a very limited amount of cheese, and you literally had to get your name on the list. Tom Owsley, who was the manager at that time, was out of town, and he told Mule, said, now, if anybody called over here and wants some cheese, if they don't have an order.
Nobody gets any cheese. I don't care who they are. They don't get any cheese if they're not on this list. And along almost quitting time, about late in the evening, I got a phone call. The fellow says, I need a ball of cheese. And I said, have you got an order? And he says, no, I don't have an order.
He didn't know who he was talking to. He said, well, if you ain't got no order, you ain't got no cheese. So.
He says, I know there's some strings somewhere that I can pull to get me a ball of cheese. And I said, yes, sir, I don't doubt that, but there's none of them tied to me. And he got mad, Lord, he got mad. He said, I'm T.K. Martin, one of the deans. I didn't know who he was. You know, I didn't know T.K. Martin from nobody. But I couldn't help him because I had my orders and I was going to follow them, you know.
If we were sold out and they couldn't get an order that, you know, they had a mother that was dying and that's all she wanted was the edam cheese. And some of it probably was correct, but you could, you know, catch on sometime when they were kind of fibbing a little bit. But, and we had some who would get a divorce that had permanent orders. Those cheese orders was part of the divorce agreement, who got their cheese order.
When we moved from the University Florist location over to Herzer back in the 70s, well, we were able to expand production. It seems like the more we produced through the years, the greater the demand has been.
We've been able to use the profit from the university cheese operation to upgrade facilities, to support scholarships, to support a lot of public relations activities. And I guess the cowbell is now the symbol, but the cheese will continue to be a symbol for years to come.
Go to our Farm Week website, Facebook page, or YouTube if you'd like to see this story again on Mississippi State University's Edam cheese. We'll also have the telephone number where you can order or send Edam cheese or any other product offered by the Memphis Sales Store. You can order cheese online at MSU-ES.com. But let me say, because of summer heat, they usually ship only during the cool months of the year from like November into April. Now, the public is welcome to come by the Memphis Sales Store on campus in Starkville. Open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. It's located just a short walk from the south end of the football stadium. It's also open on Saturdays and Sunday mornings on home football game weekends. Now, part 2 of this video will be shown next week. You see that's a 3-pound Edam ball. that you see in this picture. And then this right here is one of the original teak molds that Professor Herzer brought over from Holland just before the war broke out, World War II. And some people are saying, well, what's the big deal? But I think because there was so little of it in the beginning, and it was very good. I don't like raw cheese normally. I eat this. Yeah. I really like it. It's not strong. It's kind of salty, a little bit of sharpness, but I really love it. And I think because in the beginning it was in short supply, that's
built that demand.
Built that demand, and they make a lot of it now. But even at Christmas now, if you want to send in your orders, they stop taking orders about October 15th because they run out because of the demand.
And the other thing unique about this, it's actually made using milk from the university's own dairy herd. So it's totally an MSU product.
So tune in next week for the rest. Well, we are at the end of Farm Week for this week. On our next show, we will have part 2 of that story on MSU's Edam cheese.
Next time, we'll be concentrating more on what it actually takes to produce this iconic symbol of Mississippi State University.
We'll also report on the anniversary of Annie's Project in Mississippi. It's a program designed to improve the business skills of women ag entrepreneurs.
In southern gardening, marigolds. These old favorites still perform in our weather, and there are some new varieties now to try.
For the rest of the Farm Week crew, I'm Artis Ford.
And I'm Leighton Spann. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.